Happy Friday, all my beautiful angels. I hope that you all had an amazing week. It is me, your girl Shyla, here with another video. I hope that you have some fun plans for this weekend. Do not have any fun plans this weekend, but I have a lot of stuff going on this week that I'm going to report to you guys. Very soon, I'm going to be doing a little live update video where I'm going to go over everything once I have everything narrowed down and have everything in place so I can have all positive news for you guys. But today, before we get going off onto a tangent on that, because you know how I like to digress about stuff, today we're going to do a little video about the top 4 purchases that I regret, or my top 4 worst purchases from my 20s and 30s. And I'm going to say 20s and 30s because these actually took place probably around my late 20s, early 30s, right around the same time, like 29 to 30. So I'm going to lump the two of them together. This video was actually inspired by a video I watched about a week ago from Amanda Taz. If you are not following her, you definitely should be. I'm going to link her video right up here because she is an amazing human. Absolutely love her. And she has some really good videos and she's so funny. Anyway, you should be following her. If not, definitely get your butts over there and follow her. At least watch the video. It was inspired by her video that she did, and it made me want to do it because, you know, I'm older. I've got a lot of stuff that I've done, a lot of stuff that I've regretted. But I'm going to go over 4 of them with you. Before we get going, though, take a second, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done it by now, do it by the end of the video. I would appreciate it. Also, don't forget to hit the little bell button. That way you're notified whenever I post a new video. If you are new here, I post every Monday, every Friday, occasionally on a Wednesday or on a random day if life gets in the way. If the bell button's turned on, you will be notified whenever I post a new video. And if you are a returning subscriber, as usual, I appreciate every single one of you. Also, don't forget to check out my Instagram. I post there all the time. I post polls and stories and questions, and we get to be friends and get to have a relationship and get new ideas for new videos as long as you're not creepy. And I've gone over this a million times. Apparently boys don't understand my definition of creepy. My definition of creepy is if you're probably not creepy, I'm just probably just saying it, but if the only thing you ever comment on my video is something about my boobs or the way I look, and then you try to send me a DM when you've messaged me like one time and we don't even like really have like a friendship going in the messages in the responses part of the post, I'm probably not going to respond to you. You send me one post, if you send me one post, it's like, hey, check your DMs, and then expect me to answer the DM, I'm probably not going to respond to you. Anyway, I'm digressing. Also, don't forget to check out my Poshmark. I'm constantly posting new stuff in my Poshmark that doesn't fit me, or stuff that I buy that I never wear, which could probably go into this category, but like later on, what I bought in my 40s that I regret. Anyway, that's a subject for a whole nother time. So let's jump right into the video. So there's going to be 4 things, a couple of them big, a couple of them not so big. They're all going to stem around from the same time in my life. The first one we're going to talk about is the house that I purchased. Now, right now I rent my house. I've rented houses for a long time, and like I said, this is all stemming from the same time. In my late 20s, my son was like 4 at the time. In my late 20s, I was promoted from a sales position to a finance position, a finance manager position. And I started making a lot of money, a lot more money than I had made like in my entire life, like 3 times more money than I was making like as a salesman. And because I was a lot better at finance than I was at salesman. So I was spending money on this and that and this and that. And everybody said buying a house was a good investment, that it was such a good idea, that you never lose money buying a house, and it's an investment, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, my son was like 3, and we were living in an apartment, and it was the first place we moved to after I got divorced, and we actually like shared like this 1-bedroom apartment. We slept in the same bed because he was still little. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this house. So I bought a house, and it was an expensive house because I had all this money to spend, and the payment was pretty high, and I was making so much money I didn't even really care what the payment was. I was like, I'll just refinance it down the road and bring the payment down. You know, whatever. And funnily enough, I bought it maybe a 1.5 to 2 years before the housing market crashed and the economy crashed. And I went to refinance the house because I was on the mortgage that I had was like a 2-year fixed mortgage, and then it ballooned up after 2 years, and I planned on refinancing it before that happened. But when I went to go refinance it, the house had actually lost money because the real estate market had crashed, and it was actually worth like 70 or 80,000 less than it was when I bought it. And it was like, I couldn't refinance it, so my payment like went up by a lot. I couldn't afford that. It probably was one of the worst purchases that I've ever made. I have not thought about buying a house since then. I know that the economy is better and the housing market is better, but I would much rather just rent a house than have to deal with that again. That was absolutely dreadful. And then, I'm not going to go into specifics, but then I tried to short sale it because it was like the payment was too much for me, and I had people coming in the house all the time looking at it. Well, and I had to like leave, and it was like a whole thing. Anyway, that was number one. That was the worst. This is probably the worst one. Second thing on my list, and like I said, this is all around the same time. So is cars. And I love cars, and I'm not talking about nice cars because it's one thing to have a nice car, but for some reason I got it in my head when I got promoted to this management position that I needed 2 cars. I don't know why I got it in my head I needed 2 cars. Both for me, but I mean, with 2 cars comes 2 payment, comes double insurance. You can't drive both cars, but whatever. I had a Jeep at the time, and I was like, I don't want to put all these miles on my Jeep, so I'm just gonna buy a little commuter car. So I bought a cheap little commuter car. But then I found out how much money I was making, and the next thing I know, I'm trading in the Jeep on an Avalanche, and I didn't get a cheap Avalanche. I got like the top of the line Avalanche. So I had this massive payment for that. And then I was like, oh, but now I got this Avalanche and this little tiny car. So I traded the little tiny car in on a really expensive sports car. So now I have this Avalanche and I have this Corvette, and I'm spending all this money in car payments. I had like $1,600 a month going out in car payments, not including what I was spending and yeah, I'm telling you how much I was spending on car payments. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but I had all this money going on in car payments. And the money I was spending in insurance, and that is a lesson I definitely learned. I mean, it's one thing to have one nice car, but buying multiple nice cars for yourself that you really don't need is such a waste of money. And don't get me wrong, both of the cars were really nice, and I really miss the Avalanche. The Avalanche is like one of the best cars I ever had, just because of what it was. And the Corvette is nice. Before I live in Reno, I mean, same with my Camaro. My Camaro is great until I get around in the wintertime, and then I can't really do much in it or drive it, so you can't really have just one car like that in Reno. Anyway, I'm digressing. So that is the second thing. And you might be watching this being like, yeah, those 2 car payments that expensive, but like I said, I was making a lot more money than I had planned on making, and yeah, for some reason I had it in my head that all this money, all this status meant I needed to have 2 really, really nice cars. I don't know why. Anyway, I'll never do that again. Third thing is random things that were expensive. Third thing was random things that were expensive, and I'm going to lump these together. Random things that were expensive that I used once, and this is more of a trans thing, is a bunch of money I spent on clothes that I obviously don't need now. And my example I'm going to give is the random things that I bought and purchased once is my friend and I decided, oh, this winter we're going to go skiing. Now, when I was younger, I used to go skiing all the time. I've been skiing since I was like 5 or 6. Like, I used to race in high school. I used to compete when I was in elementary school in what we had here called the Coca-Cola Cup. And so I've been skiing for like a long time. I never did snowboarding. I was never good at it, just skiing. We decided we're going to go skiing. So I was like, okay, and this is when I was working at that job. So I went out, instead of renting skis, I went out and I bought brand new skis because I hadn't been skiing in probably 8 years. I went out and bought all the brand new skis, brand new boots, brand new poles, brand new bindings, all this brand new ski stuff. And it was not cheap. And I was like, whatever, I'll just go buy all this stuff. And I bought it and we went once. And it's just been sitting. Literally, it has literally been sitting since then, since I was in my mid-20s. It's been sitting in my house for like 15 years. And the boots, I didn't even really wear. I wore to the mountain, did one run in them, was wearing the wrong socks, and they were so uncomfortably tight that I went and put them in the car and went and rented some boots. So I didn't even really wear the boots for the skiing. That is an example of money that I've spent on something that I used once. I really used it once. I could have just rented skis and rented boots, and I was like, oh yeah, I could buy this stuff. It's going to give me an excuse to go all this time. But no, it really wasn't. And then the example of things that I spent money on, like clothing, is I'm a huge Raiders fan, and I spent so much money on Raiders jerseys. I have so many boys Raiders jerseys that I bought when I was really, really big that are just sitting in a closet because, I mean, they're Raiders jerseys. When I went through and got rid of all my boy clothes, I didn't want to throw out the Raiders jerseys. I mean, it's a Raiders jersey. I feel like that's blasphemy. So they're just sitting in there. I could probably sell them on Poshmark, but who's going to spend money on a used Raiders jersey? I don't know. Anyway, they're just sitting in there all big. I spent so much money on it. I probably have like 30 Raiders jerseys in there. That's how many Raiders jerseys I have. I know, right? They're just sitting in the other closet. And I was really, really big at the time, so I tried to give them to my son, and he was like, oh, these are way too big for me. It's like a gown on him. Anyway, I'm digressing. The final thing that I have, and I hope that you guys are getting a good laugh out of some of this stuff, because when I think back about it, when I was making this list, I was like, God, I spent money on that? Last thing that I have is eating out all the time. And this kind of went around at the same spot, and I believe it also might have had a bearing on when I gained a lot of weight. Is when I was making all that money, I was really, really bad about eating out. I was eating out like all the time. And I'm not talking like eating out like all the time, like just going to like cheap places. We were going to expensive places all the time. And I wasted so much money on these expensive food places, buying food, and not just for me, because when I would go, I would invite my friends. Or should I say my friends, because I found out later they weren't all my friends. And I would buy for all of us because they couldn't really afford to go. So I wasted so much money on food, taking friends out and buying food all the time for me and myself and other people, as opposed to just cooking food and eating at home. And it wasn't like I was going out and taking my son out. We were going out to food because he was like 4 and 5, so he didn't want to go out to eat. So I would plan this like when he was at his other mom's house, and I wasted so much money going out to food and eating at these expensive places. And, you know, pretty much all these things are things that took me away from saving money. These are all things that I regret spending money on. The worst things that I've spent money on in my past. So definitely a learning lesson. I definitely learned a lot from them. I will definitely never have two expensive cars just for me ever again. What was I thinking? Anyway, that is all I have for this video. I hope that you liked the video. I hope that you check out Amanda's video too, because hers was really good. And what are some of the things that you regret spending money on? If you watch the video, I know I don't get a lot of comments, but if you do watch the video, comment something that you regret spending money on. That way I can see if it's that way we can see if it's something we both spent money on, because I find that a lot of people spend money on similar things when they're growing up and have to learn that lesson for themselves. Also, if you like the video, comment down below that you liked it. If you want to see 4 of my best purchases that I made between my 20s and 30s. And I will make a video for that one as well. Other than that, I hope that you guys all have an amazing weekend, and I will see you guys back here on Monday with another video. Love you all.